It's on the ball.
Yeah, it's on the ball, but you know, you've challenged it before. That's where you are.
That was when I was yielding my power as chair. I'll never do that as vice chair. I told you.
Wielding. All right, the over under on that is 1 minute and 17 seconds.
T minus
Who wants the under? Who wants the under?
I'll take the under. Under pays 240.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right. All right, well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our governor's meeting for September. I think that's the month we're in. Appreciate everybody taking time to be here. We'll warm up with the ever popular approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
Mr. Chair, I'd move that we approve the minutes from June 20th.
For that motion.
I will second.
Thanks for the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, aye, say aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Okay, so then Gage, item 2 has to do with the board president CEO executing some certain matters. Could you take us through that?
Yes, sir. Under board policy, the board president CEO has authority to negotiate but not enter into contracts exceeding $250,000 for 3-year terms without governance committee approval. We have 3 contracts that are currently undergoing the state's negotiation process, in which a procurement negotiating committee hammers out the terms of the contract after reviewing bids and presents a contract to the agency for signature. One of those contracts is a contract for government relations services. That contract has already been negotiated and is ready for signature now. That is before the governance committee because the cost exceeds $250,000. The second contract is a contract for legal services for our workforce development unit. This contract establishes the hourly pricing for those services, pricing for seminars, and we've been told that pricing will also be available to another state agency, the State Department of Education. That contract has also already been negotiated and is currently ready for signature. It's before the committee because the term exceeds 3 years. The third contract, bids have been received. We expect that contract will be finalized within the next couple of weeks, putting us about 2 months away from the next governance committee meeting. That's a contract for an adult education and data management system. It'll replace the current system and it'll do all of our federal reporting for the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act grants for our adult education centers and for the state. That contract will be for a term longer than 3 years, but I don't believe we've received the costing from the bidders yet.
Okay,
Concludes my presentation.
so you want us to consider those all simultaneously or one at a time?
Well, I think simultaneously, unless the committee feels there will be a.
So we'll see what happens on that, but I wanted to understand any questions about any of the 3 of those. I thought the material, our pre-material was pretty clear.
Likely you can pick up a second attorney for only $3,000. It's a nice pricing model. 1 for 12 or 2 for 15.
I'm sure there's something really wise to say to that, but at the moment it escapes me.
Value pricing of attorney.
There you go, value pricing, although I always rejected that. All right, so are there any questions beyond those helpful observations? Okay, hearing none, we'd entertain a motion to approve all 3 of those.
I would move for approval.
Thank you, Regent Benson. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you have your authority, Mr. President. Okay, then I'm sure you all recall that one of the things we do are work policies that aren't on, that no other committee is actively taking. So we do have one like that, being cybersecurity. So we'll take that, review that policy up next, and then how it goes, go to the full board meeting. So that is going on Elaine and Steve on this one, I guess.
You Steve Funk. Start with the IT
Okay,
portion.
Great.
So the IT portion of this, you saw at the retreat once already. This is a response to Senate Bill 291 that was passed last session. Significantly overhauled IT governance and the state government as a whole and in the executive branch. But the universities were exempted from that. So this policy is started as a mirror of the requirements that are going to the state and the executive branch. So a lot of this is aligning with the Senate Bill 291 so that the universities have similar or stronger governance. That's what you saw in July at the retreat. Since then, there have been just a few changes and additions to really strengthen the CIO's responsibility and control of the environment. So it goes beyond what the Senate Bill 291 does. Gives the CIOs a little bit more control over their environment, spells out what that control is. So those are the changes that are coming forth for you today. If you have other questions, I can answer those. We also have Angela Neria from Pittsburgh State and Ken Harmon from Wichita State that were both instrumental in crafting this.
Okay. Any questions? All right.
Another aspect of the board policy is the enterprise risk management provision. So this would put in place the concept that each of our state universities would implement a risk management strategy and have a leadership team reporting to the CEO to consider risks, so cybersecurity being a very important one, but there are other aspects to risk for a university. And I want to acknowledge John Curran, the Chief Risk Officer for the University of Kansas, and the KU Medical Center is here also. And he also and folks at the other campuses assisted with drafting this information as well, of course, the board policy.
Were there any parts of this discussion where there wasn't an easy ability to come to agreement? Like, is there one or two discussion points that created friction, or is this all pretty?
And not really. I think for each of our institutions, it's, and when I think about us, particularly KU and K-State, we've been developing ERM programs for some period of time. And it was just a natural fit, given the emphasis on cybersecurity, that we need a mechanism to elevate those issues to senior leadership and have a deliberate consideration of risk. Because in some cases, we may assume some level of risk, and there needs to be senior leadership sign off on that. And so this provides that mechanism. And I can say, particularly from the CIO's perspective, there was agreement that this type of process was needed as well. So.
Well, I'm certainly aligned that that's an important effort, so I don't want to accidentally sound otherwise. But I guess maybe the same question with somewhat different emphasis. There are also a lot of ways to attack an enterprise risk management review.
That's correct.
I mean, I, for instance, used to love to layer that into all of our initiatives, thinking that some had positive aspects and some had concerns you might have. So are you comfortable there's enough flexibility the way we've written this that you can adjust as appropriate
So
across time?
And that's exactly right. Each institution may take different approaches. I know that was one of the questions, is what framework that we'd be pointing to, and I think that's really upon the institution to make that decision. This policy is mirrored from the University of Maryland system because it provides that level of really being institutional centric in terms of how they approach risk, and knowing that that's important here. And so this is not an overly prescriptive way of doing enterprise risk management, knowing that resources vary, how our CEOs think about risk, and how they want to have those decisions around risk mitigation and management are different. And so this is just simply the expectation that you have a program and that there's some accountability to the board that we do.
Okay. Well, from my perspective, that sounds perfect. So thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I guess I'd invite Angela. I know there was some discussion among the IT people. No, I don't, Angela might say differently. I don't think there was any disagreement. It was all came together fairly easily. There was some commenting that, this is going to take more than just IT policy. This would take leadership level across the board to get this accomplished.
Yes, we did discuss that. Thank you, Steve. I think everyone is in agreement and very excited about this opportunity, really. But it is more than evaluating risk in IT areas. It's going to take some work across our campuses to evaluate business practices and policies in many of our business cultures across our campus to really look at risk and where it lies. Ken, do you have any comments? I know that you've experienced some of this in the private sector as well.
You muted, Ken?
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, gotta pick the right microphone. Yeah, thank you for your time. Yeah, I do think that this will require leadership support at each of the universities. I think that probably the biggest factor is it's not just enough for a CIO or an IT leader to say that they need to be involved in or engaged in decision-making around IT purchases and IT activity. That just needs to be reinforced from leadership and through the risk management activity that John was referencing. So it's a consistent issue for us, but I think this policy change will help.
Well, again, tone at the top is always important in things like this, so I'm sure we align around that. All right, anything else? Other questions or comments? All right. So we'd entertain a motion in this case to take it to the board for a policy, right?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of recommending the full board, say aye, please. Any opposed? Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks for all the hard work on this. I know it's taking time but it's important, so thank you for doing it. Okay, item 4 is the annual conflict of interest disclosure recommendation. So, John.
Yes, sir. So board member policy or board policy on board member conflict of interest requires, as you all know, disclosures every year to be filled out and turned in. Did that back in July. I think they were distributed and they were all collected by the retreat or shortly thereafter. And on those, certain transactional affiliation and membership requirements are reported or associations are reported. So I will take you through the summary here. Our job now per board policy is to include the reported interest in the minutes of the board meeting later today. And with regard to each reported membership or affiliation or on a governing board or affiliated corporation, to make a determination regarding the permissibility of accepting or continuing to serve in that capacity. And with regard to each contract or transaction, to direct the involved regents to excuse himself or herself from participating on behalf of the board in actions involving not that contract or transaction. So one regent will serve on the governing board of an institution that is coordinated by the board. This is page 13 of your materials. Regent Dicus will serve on the board of regents as the board of regents appointee to the board of regents of Washburn University, and that's a statutory requirement. And then number 2, 2 regents have reported service on a governing board of a non-controlled affiliated corporation of an institution that's governed by the board. So Regent Dicus serves as a trustee and an investment committee member of the KU Endowment Association, a non-controlled affiliated corporation of the University of Kansas. And Regent Benson serves as a member of the executive board of the Pittsburgh State University Foundation, which is a non-controlled affiliated corporation of Pittsburgh State University. One regent has reported service on an advisory board of an institution that's governed by the board. Regent Dicus serves as a board member of the University of Kansas School of Business, Dean's Advisory Board. Then one regent has reported service on a non-governing board of an affiliated corporation, an institution that is coordinated by the board. Regent Dicus serves as a trustee of the Washburn University Foundation Board, which is a non-governing board of the Washburn University Foundation. And then one regent has reported service on a non-governing board of an affiliated corporation of an institution that is governed by the board. And that's Regent Ice serves on the KSU Foundation Board of Trustees. That is not in your materials, but is just an addition. And then number 6, one regent has reported service on the governing board of an entity that was created by executive order, by the governor's executive order, to assist with the Department of Commerce. That's Regent Parasker, serves as a member of Kansas Works, which is an advisory board originally created by an executive order to assist in establishing and coordinating workforce programs in the state of Kansas. And then she also serves on the Kansas Apprenticeship Council, which is created to assist the Apprenticeship Registration Office within the Department of Commerce to actively grow a robust system that supports apprenticeship, stakeholders, sponsored apprentices, and intermediaries. So staff recommends approving Regent Dicus, Regent Benson's, Regent Ice's, and Regent Parasker's continued service on these boards. Statute provides that one member of the Washburn University Board of Regents shall be a member of the Kansas Board of Regents. As this is a statutorily required appointment, it's not considered to be a conflict for purposes of the board's conflict policy. Service on a board of an affiliated corporation that exists to conduct research or raise or manage funds for its respective educational institution is generally in line with the board's mission and goals, would be unlikely to constitute an actual conflict of interest, and is more likely to be beneficial to the institution than potentially harmful to the board of the system. Because the University of Kansas School of Business Board of Advisors is an advisory board rather than a governing board for the university, or of its affiliated corporations, service on that board is not subject to the Board of Regents conflict of interest policy. Similarly, the Washburn University Foundation Board of Trustees is not a governing board of the foundation, and the KSU Foundation Board of Trustees also not a governing board. Let's see. And so then on my spot here, service on CanWorks board and the Kansas Apprenticeship Council likewise do not fall under the board's conflict policy. Board approval of Regent Dicus, Regent Benson, Regent Ice's, and Regent Parasker's continued service on these boards should nevertheless be conditioned on the recognition that their duty is first and foremost to the Board of Regents, and that any actual conflict does not arise, and that if any actual conflict does arise, they would take appropriate actions to manage or remedy that conflict by recusing themselves, most likely, if one of those matters came in front of the board that needed to be acted on.
Did anybody check with Regent Dicus, see if he wanted us to free up some of his time?
I called his assistant several times.
Regents won't let me do it, I'm sorry.
He's actually, his services, he's come off a few things since last year. So.
I'd like the record to show, I thought about saying that, and I chose to waive off.
Okay, moving on next to contracts or transactions. Board policy states that no member of the board having such an interest shall participate on behalf of the board in the authorization of any such contract or transaction. So contracts or transaction in which regents have reported a direct or indirect interest are as follows. This is on page 14 of your materials. 5 regents have reported an interest in an entity, has entered one or more contracts or transactions with one or more institutions that are governed or coordinated by the board. So Regent Benson is employed by the Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce, which occasionally has business transactions with Pittsburgh State University. Regent Benson is also a member of the board of directors for the Crawford County Career and Technical Education Center, the standalone 501c3 that leases space to Fort Scott Community College for college classes. Regent Benson's a graduate student at the Master of Business Administration program at Pittsburgh State University. Regent Ice has an ownership interest in a radio station, KACY, in Ark City, that does some advertising for Cali County Community College, but Regent Ice is not involved in the management or operation of the station, and thus has no direct involvement in the station's relationship with the college. Regent Ice also has a 1% ownership interest in a company called Rat Coach that has business relationships with a coach in Johnson County Community College. Regent Ice is not involved in the management or operation of Rat Coach, including its relationship with the college coach. Regent Mendoza is a doctoral student at Kansas State University. Regent Parasker has 100% ownership interest in Snap IT Solutions, or Snap IT Solutions, a limited liability company that conducts trainings for which the Board of Regents provides certificates of approval to offer in Kansas. And she is also a partner in Malafer Venture Holdings, if I'm saying that correctly, which holds related intellectual property. And finally, Regent Winter has a 2.12% ownership interest in Ad Astra Integrity Measurement Systems, Inc., which is a cybersecurity startup company in which the KU Center for Research also has less than a 10% equity investment. Neither Regent Winter nor KUCR have a controlling interest or position with Ad Astra, and currently Ad Astra has no contractual agreements with KU or KUCR. So regarding these, staff recommends directing Regent Benson to excuse himself from participating on behalf of the board in matters relating to or related to any contract or transaction between Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce and the Pittsburgh State University, or concerning the lease of space by Fort Scott Community College from the Crawford County Career and Technical Education Center. Directing Regent Ice to excuse himself from participating on behalf of the board in matters involving or related to any contract or transaction impacting KACY radio station or RAC coach. Directing Regent Parasker to excuse herself from participating on behalf of the board in matters involving, impacting, or related to Snap IT or Malafer Venture Holdings, and directing Regent Winter to excuse himself from participating on behalf of the board in matters involving, impacting, or related to Ad Astra. It's noted that the Board of Regents generally would not be asked to give or approve any activities surrounding the community college's advertising contracts or athletics personnel. Staff recommends directing Regents Mendoza and Benson to excuse themselves from any board action directly impacting the programs in which they're in.
Okay, any questions or comments? It was comprehensive.
I know it's long. Thanks for bearing with me.
It certainly appears that the Regents took very seriously, as would be expected, for providing the information. So good for the Regents. So hearing no comments, is there a motion? Again, this will go to the full board for review, but that we move from here.
Since I'm the only one not mentioned on there, I move, I'll move that we send this to the full board with recommended for approval.
Okay,
Second.
all right, thanks. Now, maybe you win the vote 1-0 then, but.
I think you're allowed to vote.
Okay, all right.
He's wielding.
I think so.
But it was the over.
No, you jumped in way sooner. This is not the first time. Okay. Okay, you're so much fun, John. And I thought the fun quotient was gonna go down. So are there, if we have further comments, is there a motion to take this forward? And you moved, so is there a second? We got a second. So all in favor, aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Threw me off my game, John. Okay. All right, so this next item is follow-up from a conversation we had around CEO compensation when we considered the compensation at our June meeting. So I think we believe we need to have some follow-up. So we can launch that discussion today. Is there a motion about executive session associated with this?
Certainly. I move that the governance committee recess into executive session to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel. The subject of this executive session is university CEO compensation. The purpose is to protect the privacy of the individual board employees involved. The session should last approximately, 15 minutes and shall include the following persons who are either members of the body or who will aid in this discussion. Members of the Kansas Board of Regents, President and CEO Blake Flanders, General Counsel John Yeary, and Director for Finance and Administration Becky Potabom. The open meeting of the Governance Committee shall resume at, let's go with 9:39.
You know, when I made these motions, you always rounded them off. But I think that's great. I love the precision. Is there a second?
The recording has stopped.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
You need to turn off the broadcast.
It was my fault. I had that construction. I didn't know. Oh, yeah.
You can't see.
We can turn the camera off.
Yeah, let's try.
Sorry, I missed that email. I didn't see it the first.
We can disconnect.
I don't think I sent it.
You did, that
Did
was the
I?
second time.
The
Yeah, you
second
passed it
time,
on to me.
okay.
I mean, I think I flipped through it. but-
I got it.